Ismail Musukaev has had a very bad year internationally. Coming back from being heartbreakingly close to an Olympic medal but losing to Islam Musukaev last year, he was still considered one of the best at 65 kilos, an absolute top contender. But this year, he surprised everyone by moving up a weight class to wrestle at 70 kilos. The best I can describe the result of this change is by calling it an unmitigated disaster. Fact is, Musukaev has wrestled at 3 different international tournaments: the Zagreb Open, the European Championships, and the Budapest Ranking Series so far this year at 70 kilos, and not done well at a single one. In fact, I'd say he did really bad at all of them. His losses can be summarized as losing close matches to people he should beat easily, getting blown out against people he should at least be competitive with, or in the case of his most recent loss versus Austin Gomez, getting blown out by somebody he should beat easily. UWW said it best: Musukaev has not been the same since the Paris Olympics. So why? In my mind, the most obvious reason for this is him moving up from 65 kilos to 70 kilos. Quite a big jump of 7.7% of body weight. While for some people moving up weight classes can be perfect, like Vito Arujau, for Musukaev it has been terrible. I think there are 2 reasons for this. The first is that he's simply too small, and the second is that the weight gain is really bad for his style. I'll start with the first statement. Musukaev is too small. This might not mean too much on its own to some viewers. After all, he can probably gain more muscle. Why can't he just eat more, bulk up, and gain enough muscle to fit at 70 kilos? But he really can't because he's at the limit of what his frame can handle. You see, this isn't the first time Musukaev has moved up weight classes. In fact, he used to wrestle all the way down at 57 kilos back when he wrestled for Russia. Undeniably, the weight cut was too hard for him, so he moved up to 61 kilos. And when he transferred to Hungary in 2019, he gained a lot of muscle and started to wrestle at 65 kilos, where he would win European hardware. Honestly, he's a success story in how moving up weight classes can make you a better wrestler. But this has a limit, as what he can't change is his frame. 5'4" is fairly normal height for a 57 kilo, but pretty short for a 65 kilo. He makes up for this in his matches by being incredibly fast and powerful. But at 70 kilos, his frame issues become nearly untenable. Musukaev is already near maxed out on how much muscle he can have on his frame while still being in good wrestling shape at 65 kilos. So to gain enough weight to fit at 70 kilos, while some of it may well be muscle, a good chunk of that is useless fat. Hence, the belly. In contrast, his opponents at 70 kilos are regularly much taller and can push him into the next zip code while also being stronger than him, something that his opponents just really can't be at 65 kilos. Thus, not only are his opponents bigger and stronger at 70 kilos, Musukaev just can't gain the 5 kilos in muscle to stay in as good a shape as he was at 65 kilos, leading him to be severely physically disadvantaged whenever he wrestles at 70 kilos. And that's, I suppose, where most analysis ends. Musukaev is doing poorly because he can't put on enough muscle to fill the weight class well, leading him to not be able to wrestle at the same level. But there's a bit of a false bottom to this case. But to show what I mean, consider David Taylor. In Korea, these two have fairly similar stories with their weight. Before his 5-year stretch of dominance at 86 kilos, David Taylor started out as a tall and lanky 74 kiloer. But while he got close, he couldn't quite make it onto the American national team, so he moved all the way up to the 86 kilo weight class, and by 2018 he was winning world championships in the Olympics. But when he lost to Aaron Brooks in the 2024 Olympic trials, he decided to move up to 92 kilos for the non-Olympic Worlds tournament, and despite having the same physical disadvantage that Musukaev has at 70 kilos, a frame already too full of muscle to bulk up fully to the size of the rest of the weight class, he managed to beat and dominate larger, stronger men and route to a bronze medal. So, how did Taylor succeed despite his being undersized while Musukaev has been getting wrecked all year? This is the second point, the weight gain being really bad for his style. But before I get into that, I have to first at least briefly explain his style. Musukaev is a very explosive wrestler. He wins matches with his blinding speed and incredible athleticism. UWW promotes him as the fastest wrestler alive. When you see him shoot his famous sprinter shot from a zip code away and finish it, when you see him move more like a cat than a human on his reattacks, when you see him hit a low single from a distance that others could never dream of finishing, or escaping from a takedown from a horrible position with his blinding speed, you can understand why. At 65 kilos, his extreme explosiveness makes him a walking highlight reel capable of offense that can defy logic. His only real weakness has been his cardio. His cardio has always been really bad, meaning that if opponents could stay in matches, they could come back from deficits. Similarly, if Musukaev was down late, he could almost never have the stamina to stage a comeback of his own. So what does this all mean? Well, gaining weight, particularly fat, is really bad for him specifically. The more weight he has on him, the less explosive his speed is, as there is more of him to explode, so his offense at 70 kilos is much worse, and his shots from extreme distance are slower, and combined with having to travel further due to increase in size, he is much more likely to get stopped and or countered. Similarly, the heavier he is, the harder it is to have the dexterity necessary to set up good re-attack shots or defend deep shots with quick movement. Thus, Musukaev's ability to both attack and defend are severely compromised in a way that David Taylor's just wasn't when he moved up to 92 kilos despite his being undersized. But it gets worse, as his primary weakness, cardio, is magnified as his larger body tires him out quicker and easier, making it so that he gasses out even worse and earlier than he already used to. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that Musukaev's style of explosive speed in particular means that past a certain weight, his physical wrestling ability falls off a cliff. For Musukaev, that weight is 65 kilos. All in all, the reason for Musukaev's sudden and dramatic crumbling in form this year is twofold. Partly it is because of him already having bulked up multiple weight classes in his career, resulting in his frame being nearly maxed out in terms of muscle at 65 kilos, and partly it is because of his explosive style in wrestling is severely negatively impacted by the necessary weight gain to fill the 70 kilo weight class. Despite how bad this year has been for Musukaev, all his failures throughout this year can be erased if he goes back down to 65 kilos at Worlds and at least medals, if not win the whole thing. But if he stays at 70 kilos for the World Championships in September, he has virtually no chance of any success due to everything I've said this video. And all his international activity in 2025 will result in is a dismal year that he and all of his fans would much rather forget.